GP Bullhound's Tech Thoughts. Today's the 16th of April, and we are here with Inge, Heydorn, and Johan Roslund for our weekly market roundup. Today, we will be covering the news that NVIDIA is stepping in on Intel's territory, reports from Taiwan Semiconductor and SAP, and the largest SPAC transaction thus far, which is Grab. Over to them.
Thank you very much. I don't know, we start with like a short market update this week. The market is a little bit standing still and waiting for the quarterly results. Inflation numbers coming out across the markets are a little bit too hot, so interest rates are moving up, but it has not hampered the market yet. So it's a little bit of wait and see. That will be my really conclusion going into the quarterly results.
Interesting, and we have a lot on the semiconductor front. I think this news about NVIDIA and the CPU for data centers, that they're really moving into Intel's territory. It's really interesting news.
Yes, it's really getting tight there now between AMD, NVIDIA, and Intel. They're all across the board now, GPUs, CPUs, and so on. Remind ourselves also that this is an announcement coming out very, very early. It's 2023, 2024 product. So we will see when it happens, but it's an interesting step, and it's based on an ARM stack. So it will be really, really interesting. And it's a few years away, but once again, somebody coming into Intel's territory and really starting to eat on their out of their business, I would say.
And they're going to be much more energy efficient, right? But because NVIDIA is already doing GPUs for data centers. Why is it? When do you pick a CPU, and when do you pick a GPU for a data center?
They can handle different type of data handling. So the GPU is more about the graphics, handling graphics in general, while the CPU can handle much more data transactions in a better way. So in terms of the product itself being more energy efficient, it'll be interesting to see, because remember, we are talking 2023, 2024, and as you know, Intel has been struggling with a 10 nanometer, but hopefully at 2023-24 they will be down to somewhere between 7 and 5, and then have a better product also to compete with. But at this point in time, it looks quite interesting.
Impressive. And TSMC, what did they say this week?
Yes, TSMC reported yesterday, and the sales numbers we already had, as they're Taiwanese and they released them. But earnings were in line with expectations, slightly better, but very much in line. But interestingly enough, what I think is just a big read through here is, firstly, they increased the capex again, which is very positive for the equipment vendors. So they're now raising it to 30 billion for this year, from 25 to 28. But even more interesting is the fact that if you look on what they're doing and producing today, 51% is still old stuff. 49% was 5 to 7 nanometers. So there's still a lot of room to grow for them. So not just adding more capacity on those levels, but also the fact that prices are different on those levels. They're much more complex. They have a much better position there. So you will, going forward here, see growth by capacity, but also the fact you're going down the nodes. And I still think the market is underestimating that leverage, and also the fact that Intel has been struggling, as we've been stating already, and also Samsung. So they're alone in that segment for the moment.
And moving over to software and cloud, but were there any read-through from SAP, the German software giant's report, or at least sales numbers?
I think it's quite interesting, given the fact that, yes, let's go back 2 months and they had a massive profit warning stating that things will look tough while they're moving their business model all the way to SaaS. Now, a few months later, 2 months later, they're updating us and giving us better numbers than expected. And the fact that their cloud business is recovering, and also the license business wasn't that bad. And the underlying growth was 2% for the company. So it swings around and it really moves around for them. But I think the most interesting stuff here, I think, is that the fact that the market is really asking SAP and the vendors in software to do cloud solutions, and the demand for cloud solutions are there, and it's continuing.
Interesting. And moving over to from US to Europe and now over to Asia, we got a huge fine. So I needed to print it out here because $2.8 billion is a lot of money. But the question is it a lot of money for Alibaba? And the answer, if you look at the share price reaction, is no. I think it was up actually 6% that day. And this fine, first of all, they're getting that because according to the government there is doing anti-competitive measures. So for example, if you're a merchant, you have to write a contract either with Alibaba or someone else. So if you write a contract with someone else and selling your stuff on JD or Tencent's platform, Alibaba won't let you sell on theirs. So that's what they're getting this fine for. And it's equal to around 2 months of cash flow for Alibaba. So it's actually not a lot of money. And this also takes a lot of worrying of the market. So looking at Alibaba's share price last 6 months, it's down 20%. And the valuation is below 20 times earnings now. So the stock has really been pressured before by this. What's your taking?
I totally agree. I think the stock will recover even more if people thought that this is over now. We hope it is over, but there's still rumors about them going more aggressively against their financial business and so on. But I think we probably are very, very close to a bottom of where you can value Alibaba, as you said, below 20 times earnings. So I think it's definitely something to look at.
And our next Asian company that we should talk about today is Grab, which didn't do a normal IPO, but is going to the US stock market via a SPAC, altimeter SPAC. And it's a huge transaction, as Maria said. This is the largest SPAC transaction this far, and it's $40 billion US. It's going to take place in next quarter. And Grab is really interesting because they have a 50 to 70% market share in all these Southeast Asian countries. And it's a high growth region, but it's also a very underbanked region. So Grab is making the customer acquisition through their ride hailing and food delivery. What they really is going to make money on, we believe, is the fintech leg. And you can compare it to Sea Limited, that we also like, which is also a Singaporean company. They both have banking licenses. They will be, we think, very aggressive to take customers within the financial sector. Inge, is this a company that you think is interesting to invest in?
I think the region is really, really interesting. As you said, Johan, we like Sea Limited also. And it's in a region where I would say both the Chinese and US companies has not been successful. So the Amazons, Alibabas of this world has not been successful in this region, which leaves room for the local players, if you can say it like that, for Grab and Sea and so on. But it's definitely an interesting region. There's a lot of people in the region. Indonesia is at 400 million plus people and so on. So it's a really, really interesting region.
Yeah, and they're also raising 4 billion in fresh cash from Fidelity, BlackRock, Temasek, etc. And that money would probably be spent on Indonesia to grab that, because Indonesia is 40% of this Southeast Asian region number of people. That's a key market, and there's a lot of competition there. But in the other markets like Vietnam and Thailand, they are clear market leaders. Good. I think that's run out for the companies that we're going to talk about. We can just briefly mention next week because we will get some earnings report from Netflix. But what else do we have next week, Inge?
We also have ASML next week, which will be quite interesting on the equipment side. I think when looking at ASML, I think the biggest worry if we have is the supply side, so not the demand side. So if they have had any problems with components also, given the fact of what we see in the world with the component shortages. But on the supply side, I think they are selling everything they can produce. As we talked about TSMC and so on. So I think those will be the key highlights next week.
Great, looking forward to that. And now I think Maria is in London, so there will be a lot of sun and open bars. I'm in Stockholm, here it's also sunny, and Inge, we heard in Spain, it's raining and a lot of fog. So I think we're having the best weather in Northern Europe this weekend.
Enjoy the weekend, Maria, in freedom.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.